welcome everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are, and welcome to the June edition of Pitch Perfect. This is our monthly event showcasing some of the companies on our platform, where they join us to tell us a little bit more about their mission, their motivation, and what they'll do with the money that they raise. Each of the companies that's joining us today will have 12 minutes in the limelight. They'll give us a short pitch followed by a Q&A session. So make sure you send in all your questions for them as well. We'll kick things off with CAARY, then the raise, treasure, best athletes, and PKA SoftTouch. So we've got 5 awesome pitches coming up. We've got a stack of questions and we've got an hour to do it. So let's go. I'm going to hand over to John, who's going to take the first pitch for us with CAARY. So John, when you're ready, I'll just get your slides up. But if you want to start talking, we're ready when you are.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, John. And nice to be with you all here today. I can maybe start by saying we've had a great experience with the FrontFundr team. Really very professional, excellent compliance process. So it's been a real thrill to be part of this fundraise. And I guess we're in a bit of an interesting situation for pitching in that we've actually closed our round. We've raised 4.1 million, and really over a pretty short period of time, three plus weeks. So we had a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. And in fact, we were oversubscribed by 2x. We had originally thought we would take probably between 2 and 2.5, but the enthusiasm with which investors came to the table was really a great validation for our business model. So we're super excited about that, and we're super happy to be able to participate in really the democratization of the venture asset class. And we're committed to it, and access to retail investors, and more importantly for retail investors, access to exciting tech startups is very much in our DNA. Likewise, with CAARY providing access for small businesses to capital in an efficient, effective way is important to us. So before I jump into a bit more about CAARY, I would say for those who didn't invest, stay tuned. We're, as is always the case with startups, if you're not raising money, you're thinking about it. So we're really kind of, as soon as this round has closed and is closed, we're going to be launching another financing and planning for that in the fall, both a US and Canadian wrapper, and we'll be back to FrontFundr as well. So in terms of CAARY, CAARY really at its core is a digital platform to provide a credit card, ultimately credit products like an installment loan product, payments products, and spend management functionality all in one platform. So it's not entirely dissimilar from a couple of US models, which have a very similar approach, like Brex, maybe being the largest and most infamous of these platforms. Ramp, Divvy, all have had great success. So when we looked at an opportunity to do so in Canada, we saw a very de-risked model from the perspective of the target addressable market, de-risked from a technology perspective. So we're super excited about bringing this capability to Canada. So just in terms of our timeline, some of you may have seen this, we'll be launching our MVP shortly, sometime late in July. We will follow that up with a full deployment of the platform in the fall, early fall, I would say. And we're through development, through all of our design work, and in UAT right now. And I would say, having been in this space for many years, financial services and fintech, this is a very robust MVP platform that we'll be launching. So maybe with that, I'll just kind of quickly talk about some of the functionality of the platform and then turn it over for some questions. So we will issue both virtual or digital and physical cards. The platform is what makes it really unique is you no longer need to contact your financial institution to really manage and monitor the usage of those cards. There's an administrative module within the platform that really allows, whether it's the CFO or director of finance or administrator, allows them to control the usage of the card, the dissemination of the card, the limits on the card, all under an umbrella credit limit, which is issued to the corporation. It's not issued to the individual. So there's no personal guarantees and all that goes along with personal guarantees in terms of personal assets. It's near real-time credit adjudication. We're using different tools than a lot of other financial institutions use in terms of adjudicating clients. We're able to do cash flow analysis based on open banking partnerships that we have. We can lend against assets in the case of, startups or companies that have recently raised capital, which typically wouldn't qualify you if you were a client of a bank. We also have some functionality around automated receipt capture and integration with a variety of different accounting systems like a QuickBooks or a Wave or Xero, what have you. We've also got instant money transfer functionality on the platform, which emulates a wire transfer at a bank, but at a much more palatable cost point for our clients. So maybe with that, John, I'll just take a pause and see if there's any questions.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for the presentation, John. I'm going to dive into a couple of questions that we have, so bear with me a second. So yeah, first question that we have is, you mentioned it's a popular concept in the US. Question here is there a threat that a US company could expand into Canada and do something similar? And if they were to do so, what gives CAARY an edge?
Yeah, there's always a threat that competitors will kind of see a success story and swoop in and try to replicate that. I personally believe it's really important, your go-to-market strategy. So our whole strategy around branding and go-to-market is not about creating a massive CAARY brand per se, but rather building deep, meaningful partnerships with some of the value chain that would give us access, if you will, to large swaths of small businesses. So think professional services firms, a lot of new business formation in accounting, legal, advisory firms that are very much targeted at the small and medium-sized business. So we've gone a long way over the course of the past couple of months to securing several of these partnerships. We've inked one, and we've got 2 or 3 well into development. So that's the way we see the market. I mean, I'd go further to say this model, there can be a lot of co-opetition with other providers of similar services, frankly, and I think as the market understands that the traditional banks or credit card companies aren't the only source of potential capital, I think that's good for the whole ecosystem, and it's a big ecosystem. There's 1.2 million small business clients, most of which don't have corporate credit cards. So we're passionate about being first to market, but we're not foolish that we think we'll be the only players over time in this space.
I wanted to jump in with another question that's coming from the audience for you here, John. The question is that by offering cards to small and medium-sized businesses, how do you secure the funds around those?
How does CAARY secure the funds? Yeah, we've been working with some partners to provide balance sheet. So if you think about our business model and the typical business model in this space, you really structure it one of two ways, where you have your own balance sheet, typically through a layer of equity in providing liquidity to that balance sheet, and a layer of debt. So we're deep in the process of securing those partnerships. The other is an off-balance sheet relationship, where whenever the loan gets booked, whether it's the intra-month liquidity agreement or whether it's the longer-term installment loan, you can do that on another institution's paper. So whether that's a bank, an asset manager, what have you, many of them play in this space, and then CAARY operates in those situations as a platform, as a service. So both are the models that we'll be taking to market.
So we've spoken about the concept and obviously the partnerships and kind of the model that you have. Could you tell us a bit more about the team behind CAARY, kind of who's in it, and what do they each do?
Yeah, super excited to tell you about the team. When I first met our founders, Jason and Steve, I got to meet some of the early team that had been brought on to CAARY. We have a very technically sound team. Our chief product officer, Salil, comes from the industry, comes from the credit card industry and banking industry. And is a deep subject matter expert in that space. Our COO, Currie, likewise, deep payments career executive, and really will be incredibly important to us scaling our business, as he knows how to scale a business. Our CTO, Syme, likewise, lots of experience in the financial services space. A true digital guru, if you will, within platforms like this, and has been driving all of our integration work. So really, I was so impressed with the caliber of the team, and when Steve and Jason asked me if I'd step in as CEO, I was thrilled. Given my background, particularly maybe with OMERS as an investor, I've seen a lot of fintechs, and I just thought this was just such a unique opportunity in the Canadian market. Since then, we've brought in a couple of really great seasoned executives. First thing I did, because I've got a credit background, was I wanted to secure a very strong chief risk officer. So Chris White has joined us as the chief risk officer, and Chris and I worked together at CIBC many moons ago. And it's so important when you're launching a platform, not just a fintech platform, but a platform that's delivering credit to the market. You have to have great credit skills at the core. The next exec that we brought in was Pat Finnerty, who I also worked with at a previous life at PwC. He's our chief strategy officer. He spent most of his career with SaaS Institute, and developed their go-to-market strategies for the SaaS suite of services and products. And then most recently, we brought on board a seasoned executive from American Express, Dan Boudreau. He ran the sales function for American Express's corporate credit card, focused on the small business arena. He ran both sales and marketing at different times. So, we've been able to attract extraordinary talent. I think the story about what we're building and the excitement and enthusiasm around it has really resonated with all of us, and that's the core of our team.
That's really exciting indeed. Fantastic vision, awesome product, killer team. We look forward to welcoming you back on the platform very soon, John. I guess people should stay tuned. I guess late summer, early autumn is when we hope to have you back.
Yeah, I would say that's right. Early autumn.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the pitch and for sharing the CAARY story. I'm now going to hand over to Alfie and Rob from the Raise, who are going to tell us about their campaign. So Rob, when you're ready with the slides, and Alfie with the pitch, take it away.
Well, I'd like to also thank FrontFundr for all the assistance that they've given us in the weekly meetings, all the way to you, John, and when it all began. The Raise is a unscripted reality show about entrepreneurs, very similar in concept to Shark Tank and to Dragon's Den, but just think of them as a similar show, but on the road. So we're not in a shiny studio, all unscripted. It's entrepreneurs from around the world. We've gone to Australia, we've been to Mexico, we've been in New York, and oddly enough, Rob, if you could actually go to the last screen, which is Smart Suites, we found our first rock star, because I'm based out of Vancouver, even though the show is going to be all over the world. We met Tara when she had 1.5 employees, herself being one and another half employee. And in short 4 years, I introduced her to one of my mentors / investors, who had just sold a company called Dea, which is one of the first vegan cheese companies. And it was just on the heels of their $400 million sale that the timing worked out great. I introduced Tara to Eric, and it spawned from there. And they were sold last September to TPG for $400 million for 80% of the company. So again, a serious home run. Obviously, this is not normal, but we invested. The team I brought to her invested and mentored her, which is one of the most important things about the show. Really, the stars are the entrepreneurs, but at the end of the day, it's me investing. But it's not just money that people want; it's having a strategic investor. And the particular person I introduced Tara to, and by the way, she deserves all the credit in the world. But the person I introduced her to had taken her under her wing and basically brought all the Dea people, in the sense of the banking, the lawyers, the accountants, and everyone in, and that's where it just moved from there. And again, all the credit in the world to Tara. During this journey, we've assembled an unbelievable team. Rob, if you don't mind doing the first slide. So our executive producer partner, his name is Kent Weed, and he is the co-founder of American Ninja Warrior, which has been on for 11 seasons. I'm sure at some point everyone has seen an ad for it. And Hell's Kitchen, which is going into its 19th season. Rob, if you could do the next slide, please. So what we are trying to build, first of all, we're working on a deal right now. We have an offer from Bloomberg Television. We have another offer that we're receiving tomorrow, so I'm not going to mention who the broadcaster is until we get the offer. But the idea is we start in America, it's broadcast on someone like Bloomberg, broadcast in Canada, and then broadcast in the rest of the world through foreign sales. So what Hell's Kitchen, for example, has been able to do, in addition to being broadcast in over 100 countries, and I was telling John the other day, they just shot their 10,000th episode of all the different Gordon Ramsays combined. So it's just another way of scaling and branding. So they've branded this into, like I say, 100 countries, and Gordon Ramsay has been able to build this massive brand that he can, not only do they receive obviously funds from foreign sales and within the United States and Canada, he has so many different alleys and avenues where they raise a ton of money. I mean, the show is just, again, it's another home run. If we could do a 10th as good as that show, we would be well on our way. So right now we're working on the America, which really is usually the start for any show. You need to be on America to be on in Canada, even though we're based here, and then the rest of the world. So that's kind of how we've started off. And right now we're looking to raise $800,000 just as a test. We've done one pilot, and the funds would be allocated to doing 10 one-hour shows on someone like a Bloomberg. So that's basically how the raise will work.
Very exciting stuff. Thanks for sharing the story, Alfie. First question from me is, how do you find the companies to feature in the show? Because you go global, right? So is there an application process? Are there anyone on the call? If they know someone, can they do a recommendation? Do you go out and find them yourselves?
All the above. So word of mouth. I mean, we started off by putting an ad on Kijiji and Craigslist, and you can imagine how many people are looking for money. It's so the response was incredible. We went to New York again, put an ad on Craigslist. It was really unbelievable. And our deal flow too. The person I had mentioned, who I'd introduced Tara at Smart Suites to, he's really educated himself in the space of mostly organic food, even though he's anything that has to do with bettering the environment, pesticides, and anything like that. The amount of deal flow that he has is absolutely incredible. So I really bounce a lot of ideas off of, his name's Eric Patel. He's an American guy that's been based out of Vancouver. He came here to run Crystal Decisions when they were bought eventually by SAP. So we get a lot of deal flow from him. But I mean, to be honest, we can just stick something on the internet and we get thousands of people looking for money. And it is a great way to just look at a lot of deals. Because ultimately that's, like I say, the star of the show is, I'm just the host and a producer that will invest. But at the end of the day, the stars are the entrepreneurs, and they really are not that difficult to find. And right now with COVID, like in America in May, they had 700,000 people left their jobs. There's more entrepreneurs that are being spawned because of COVID than ever before in the last century. So we're really excited about investing in some cool entrepreneurs. And you're correct. I mean, we went all the way to Australia because there's this superstar girl that had a Fitbit for kids. We went to Mexico. It was funny idea, but it was, if you've ever seen, you sit in the putting your feet in a fish tank where the little fish bite your feet. Well, there was a guy in Mexico who had I mean, again, it's not a huge business, but he had a business that was super profitable and really fun. So it's not only about the big boardroom, it's also about the guy with the taco stand on the corner, that it may have something unique. That's the whole idea of the show. So anyway, that's how we get our deal flow.
That's really cool. I love the story about the feet there, the fish nibbling the feet as well.
Yeah, you can go to an expensive lodge here, or you go to Mexico and pay $10, or you can pay $200 to have the same thing done. It was pretty cool, actually.
100%. I want to jump in with a question that's coming from Aaron Davey regarding deal flow, Alfie. His question is basically, how does it work? So is an investment made by the Raise Corporation or individual investors, in the sense that it's a simple referral, or some other way? So could you talk maybe a little bit more about how the deal flow angle works?
Okay, so all the above. It just really depends on the deal. In some cases, it'll be me investing. In some cases, it'll be a combination of myself. And as I said, the goal is to always have a strategic investor, and the corporation itself will invest in every deal as well. So it could be a combination of all three.
And talk to me a little bit more about Smart Suites. I mean, that's an awesome story that you shared. You talked a little bit about how it came about, and that's kind of an exceptional, I don't know, maybe like once in a show, once in a series type of thing. Are you expecting the show to produce more similar success stories? Are you looking for something different? Is it all of the above? That's part of the excitement of what we do. Well,
again, Tara, as I said, was a home run, and yeah, that'd be pretty hard to replicate. Of course, we hope that we would love to have another success story like that, but again, you hit home runs, you can also strike out. So we really, again, in reality, it's probably going to be more singles and doubles, and again, using baseball analogy, and a lot of the times when you're not looking for it, that's when it happens. I mean, Tara, in the beginning, was offered a few $1 million for the company, and that's a heck of a lot of money for a girl who just left business school at UBC, and to turn down, because whoever knows, as your previous guest was saying, someone could come along. I mean, the biggest worry was we wanted to get to market as quick as possible, because we were worried that one of the big companies could come along and replicate what we were doing. And in the end, it was a fund that bought her, but you were starting to see, even though there were a few copycats, that was definitely a big worry. And so, to her credit, she turned down what seemed to be a heck of a lot of money in the beginning, and sort of rolled the dice. So anyway, of course we hope we get another success story like that. but I'll never guarantee it.
Oh no, but that's part of the fun, right? You don't know what's coming. So
yeah, for sure, of course.
Speaking of the next success story, just got a question come in here from Nikki Galliano, who asks about the application process. So do you have a site where people can kind of apply? Have you already picked entrepreneurs for the first 10 episodes? Or how do people get in touch if they have an idea or they want to do something similar?
They will come directly to us. We do not have an application process. That is something we'll be working on as we finish up our FrontFundr raise. But that definitely will be part of as we get more formal. I do have some entrepreneurs in mind, but we've had to really work our way around COVID. And I mean, even though now that we're all on a Zoom call, everyone is in different places. I mean, at the end of the day, I still love to look someone in the eye and just that initial. But even though now, I mean, Zoom is a reality, I would prefer that. So we will have an application process for sure. But to this point, it's been fairly informal, and it's mostly been word of mouth and through various entrepreneurs getting in touch. But yes, we will have a formal process for sure.
And another question I want to pick up here from Kenneth Smith, in terms of success of the show. Do you see the success of the show driven by the entertainment aspect of what you do? You know, like we said, kind of going down to Mexico, seeing what's going on there, maybe Australia, or is it more the resulting investments made in the business and the returns that you make that way? So which one do you see as driving things forward?
Well, I see both. And I mean, we're dealing with Kent Weed, who is, as I mentioned earlier, who's the executive producer of American Ninja Warrior and Hell's Kitchen. I mean, those are incredible successes, and Kent would not spend the amount of time that he has with us if he didn't see something in the show that I believe the entertainment side can be a huge profit center. I believe the branding, as we build the brand, can be a huge profit center. And it's likely something that at some point, because most investors want an exit, we would sell in 5 years. We build it to a certain scale. Maybe it's 5-7 years. I don't know the exact number because it's really hard to say. But I see all of the three. He calls it a wheel, and it's like it's the wheel that goes around, and there's the money from branding, the money from the entertainment side, the money from the entrepreneurs. So add the wheel up, and we believe that it could be a huge profit center based on the fact he's done it for 19 years with Hell's Kitchen and obviously American Ninja Warrior. They just spin off so many different profit centers. You know, my kids, they love the American Ninja Warrior Junior. I mean, it's really neat to see someone like themselves on the TV, but those are the profit centers for sure. And there's more than one. So we feel that we combine them all, that there's a good opportunity for us to make. Again, it's about mentoring entrepreneurs. At the same time, you can't do these things without making money. So that's
well said indeed. And watch this space, right, Alfie? I'm sure you guys have many great things planned, and I'm excited to see what you develop. But thank you so much for sharing the Raise story as well. I'm going to hand over to Matt from Treasure now, who's going to tell us all about their company. So Matt, when you're ready, we're all yours.
Wax on, wax off. Daniel Russo spent his summer cleaning cars, painting fences, and sanding floors. Little did he know these training techniques were secretly teaching his muscles karate moves. And when the karate lessons began, he learned easily. The Miyagi way of teaching karate is the Treasure way of teaching personal finance. Most North Americans live paycheck to paycheck. They can't afford a $400 emergency and will reach retirement age broke. Most young adults get zero financial education before entering the workforce. Parents want better for their children and are hungry for smart ways to teach them about money. My name's Matt, and I was terrible with money growing up. I didn't have Mr. Miyagi or Treasure. I had maxed out credit cards, no savings or investments. I was even addicted to payday loans. A few years ago, I became a personal finance nerd, and it changed my life. These are my girls. I don't want them making the same money mistakes I did, and that's why I started Treasure. Treasure is an educational prepaid card for kids. You can think of us as the Mr. Miyagi of money. Let me show you how it works. Treasure is built for different parenting styles. There are 2 separate parent and child apps optimized for each user. The experience is built around a weekly payday. This mimics the real world. It includes tasks and allowance. Parents can give their kids a no strings attached allowance, tie the earnings to chores, or choose to do a hybrid of both. When payday arrives, kids are encouraged to save a percentage of their money, also known as pay yourself first. When they want to buy something expensive, they can direct their earnings to a savings goal. This teaches delayed gratification. The market is massive and it's in its infancy. Our current focus is Canada, with plans to expand to the US and beyond. There are 36 million kids between the age of 6 to 18 in households making $50K plus. Our goal is to sign up over 400,000 in the next 4 years. How do we make money? We generate revenue 3 ways. We charge a monthly fee to the parent. We get a percentage of all transaction volume, and partnerships. This includes white labeling, co-branding, and referral fees. With 400,000 customers at $150 lifetime value, that's $40 million ARR in year 4, not including interchange or partnership revenue. We launched our card beta in March and now have over 100 paying customers. We're in a great position to capitalize. We have great engagement with parents and their kids. This validates our value proposition and mission with our target demographic. We have a passionate team with experience building and scaling startups. Just like Mr. Miyagi, we believe the best way to learn is by doing. In the future, Treasure Kids will grow up understanding how money really works and will get rich slowly. Thank you.
Thanks for the pitch, Matt. That was awesome. Really enjoyed the Mr. Miyagi link as well. One thing that did surprise me though, looking on your campaign page as well, is I think you mentioned that, is it 64% of adults in North America will probably reach retirement age broke, which is shocking. But it also shows the need for financial literacy. So my question to you is, are other nations as bad? Is that everywhere? Is Canada particularly bad? And if so, why is Canada so far behind?
It's a good question. I mean, I don't think Canada specifically is so far behind, but it is a global problem. There's no doubt about it. Stats are mind-blowing as far as financial literacy, and it really just comes down to how it's being taught and when it's being taught. Only up until very recently, it wasn't essentially being taught, and now it's become a big mandate here in Canada specific to start teaching this at a young age. So I think in lies the problem, right? But that's going to change, and companies like ours are going to help expedite that.
And you mentioned that kind of you're sort of a self-taught personal finance nerd. How was it for you learning about that stuff that you didn't have when you were a kid? Was it easy to find online? It took you a lot of time figuring out where to access that information and how?
Truth be told, I didn't really figure this out until maybe 5-6 years ago. And that's like mid-30s-ish. And really, it just started with reading books. There's some great books out there. And interestingly enough, when I say read some books, I read probably 30 or 40 books. And I could sort of distill the learnings down to sort of 2 key principles there, which was pay yourself first and live within your means. And if you can do those 2 things, you will be rich. I mean, you can read all these books and it'll all come back to that. It's not easy though. Right. So it's and why we use that Mr. Miyagi reference, right? It's about like learn by doing, forming these habits very early on. And that's why we believe starting with kids with a simple allowance and then receiving the money and automatically putting away a minimum of 10% of their money is going to build these habits. It's going to ingrain them into them so that when they get their first paycheck, guess what? They're putting that money away. And compound interest, the 8th wonder of the world, that is how you become rich, right? There's a lot of stats about if you put X dollars away by this age and what it's going to look like, it's crazy. So start them young.
There's clearly sort of a problem that needs fixing, and there's also clearly demand, and there's clear demand for what you do. Because I think I see on your campaign page, or you mentioned in your presentation, there's this pre-launch waitlist of 5,000 people. Where did they come from, and how can people sign up if they want to access Treasure now? Are you taking more sort of reservation spots?
Yes, absolutely. So that really came from us just testing the market with a landing page. with a value prop of what we're offering to see if there was any interest. And you could leave your email, and we were getting some people to fill out a survey as well, just to gather some more intel. And the demand was high. We were blown away by the demand. And yeah, we started by inviting people in slowly, and it's now essentially open if you want to sign up.
And we will, of course, send a link to that in the follow-up email if anyone's interested, because I know there's a few questions about that coming in as well. Another question come in, Matt, in terms of usage is there a minimum sign-up period that new users have in the model? You know, is it a year, or do they typically try it for a month and then they get hooked on the value and the usability?
Yeah, I mean, because it's early days for us. I mean, we've been sort of testing the pricing model and exactly what that looks like as far as trials and things like that. Where we've netted out right now is there's basically a monthly subscription and an annual subscription. In fact, we've seen some incredible engagement. When we started, we had quarterly, semi-annually, and annually, and 75% chose annually. Now, it's also priced to encourage annual, but that also gives you more than enough time to get hooked, as you say, right? And that's what we're finding is basically card arrives within a week or so. And once that card gets activated and kids are starting to use that and getting their allowances on a weekly basis, we're seeing some incredible engagement.
And you've got the great engagement, you've got kind of the wait list and people using it. Another question that's jumped in here is in terms of milestones, can you talk to us about what the roadmap looks like for Treasure and what that timeline is? So is it kind of over the next 12 months we expect X to happen, 24 months is Y, sooner or later than that?
Sure. If we're just talking future milestones, I mean, our goal is so we've spent a lot of time just working on getting the product right and stable. And now that we have that, the idea and part of this raise is to start focusing on growth, right? Number one goal is product market fit. We're basically there. Now it's time to turn on the growth machine. So, I mean, our goal would be to get to 10,000 paying customers within the year. And then from there, you know, grow exponentially is sort of the dream anyways. And we think it could be a reality, certainly based on the market and numbers and our modeling.
And Tony Zaidi says, great presentation with an obvious need. Completely agree. The question here is, how defendable is the concept? Is it easy to copy, or is there an approach to building a competitive moat around what you offer? I
mean, we were talking about milestones earlier. It took close to 2 years to get this product to market. Now that's changing as more options becomes more easy to build a platform like this, meaning the partners, right? So we need an issuing bank, we need a network like a MasterCard, you need a processor, we're working with a program manager. There's a whole bunch of moving pieces to actually get this across the line. And those deals take a while to line up. So first and foremost, it takes a while to get to market with one of these things. And then obviously, software is not easy either. So, I mean, on top of that, I mean, you are starting to build out your user base, and we're starting to see referrals. We've been working on SEO, which we're now starting to see some great organic growth. It's all very small, but all the signs are there that's going to be very helpful as new competitors arise.
I think as you touched on, the execution is key, right? That obviously there was a need for this kind of thing. No one's really addressed it, so that's one thing. But like you said, kind of actually turning the solution into reality is a whole different kettle of fish that takes a team to kind of execute on that vision as well, which you're clearly doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you talk to us a bit, question from Adele here as well, about what the investments look like in terms of perks and rewards for people that do or are interested in investing in Treasure through FrontFundr?
Sure. Yeah. Those are on the campaign page. So frontfundr.com/treasure. The biggest one, which is at the 25K level, is where you'll get some additional warrants. So that's certainly the best one. And the others will basically include access to Treasure as well as some swag. And that's essentially what you get there. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's all listed on the campaign page, and we'll send a link to that in the follow-up email as well. So be sure to check those out on the right-hand side. One more question, Matt, before we jump on to the next one, is gifts. So is this something that someone could buy for a niece or a nephew to help them with their financial education?
Yeah, great. I mean, it's a great idea. It's on our roadmap to make that more easily done. We don't have that exactly today, but gifting across the board, it's one thing to be able to gift treasure to someone like the subscription. It's another thing also for grandparents, aunts, uncles to be able to gift money. So the whole sort of gifting category is something we're very excited about, and it's on our near-term roadmap.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for the presentation, Matt, and for answering all the questions as well. And
Yes,
really appreciate that.
Go England.
Absolutely. I haven't checked the score. Anyone that's watching, I picked the worst time for this event, but yeah, depending on how happy Victoria looks in a second, we'll know how it's been going. Oh, I see a thumbs up. Well, that's a good time to bring it on to Steve from Best Athletes, who's also a soccer fan. But let's hear about Best Athletes first, Steve.
Okay, thanks, John. Can you see on my screen?
Looking good, yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, what a great segue. Thanks for setting that up. I'm Steve. I'm one of the founders of Best Athletes, and actually our CEO, Stevie Caldwell, sends his apologies for not being able to make the pitch today. He's for those of you that follow a little bit of soccer, he's on TSN right at this moment doing some commentary or analysis of the game. So hopefully you'll be able to have a chance to connect with Stevie during our campaign here. But let's dive in then. Let's talk a little bit about some more sports here, Best Athletes, and really how we're bringing pro level sports analytics to the youth sports market. And very simply, you can think of us as kind of LinkedIn meets Moneyball is how we describe that. So, whoops, let's see if I can get slides. So I want to introduce you to Stella. Stella is one of our software developers. And when she was younger, she was a soccer player as well. And, one of her struggles in her soccer journey was she thought she was, good enough maybe to get a scholarship in the States, but she had no idea how to do it. Her parents were immigrants. They didn't have the connections. They had no idea. And, other parents and players on her teams, they didn't really know either. And her coaches really weren't of much help as well. But she was lucky. She had a friend on another team who took her aside and said, hey, you got to take matters into your own hands, and here's how you do it. So she was actually one of the successful ones. And she got a full ride scholarship in the States that amounted to, I think, about 140,000 US over the 4 years. And she ended up with a computer science degree as well. But she's the anomaly. There are a lot of kids out there that really, are playing sports, are trying to develop some good skills and just do a little bit better, but they have no idea really where to begin. And so we're tackling this problem. And those of you that are in sports, you'll recognize this. Youth athletes in general don't really have a clear path. They don't get a lot of feedback as to how to get better, how to develop, and then how to maybe get recruited, get a scholarship, make next year's team, that kind of thing. And the coaches at the youth level really don't have the right tools to build better athletes and to build better teams as well. This might seem, for those of you that maybe are into tech but not into sports, it may seem like a trivial problem, but the market is actually quite large. And we're starting with soccer, and it's the biggest of the sports. But the market is expected to triple over the next 5 years, and certainly the role of tech is playing a huge role in that. So our solution and what we're doing, we've created an online platform for youth athletes, their parents, and the coaches as well, to really bring these professional level tools down to a point where they can understand them, use them, and create a path forward for themselves to meet their goals, basically. So through things like performance benchmarking, having access to comparative data, video tools, and the ability to search for college and university programs, education programs, as well as the sports programs, we create this kind of all-in-one package online at a very affordable price point that allows the athletes to meet their goals and be able to navigate this kind of crazy world of sports. So as I mentioned, we've started with the soccer space, but our plan is to quickly move to hockey and some of these other sports as well. We've just launched our platform this spring, actually in the last month, and we've already have almost 200 coaches, 740, actually we're probably up to 800 now, athletes onto the platform. We've got partnerships with Canada Soccer, Ontario Soccer. Interestingly, we've got a partnership with Toronto FC and their affiliate or their junior programs, where their goal is to get 1,000 of the youth athletes onto our platform by the fall on that. And so there are some other clubs there as well, and we're going to announce a fairly major onboarding of athletes here in the coming week as well. So we've been really pleased with the traction. We expect to have somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000 athletes on our platform by Christmas on this one. Our leadership team is a combination of people who have been there and done that in the sports world, and sports entrepreneurs, sports personalities. As I mentioned, Barry is a player agent that reps players in North America as well as Europe. And we have former pro players, as well as some tech people who have been CEOs, done tech startups, and been senior executives in larger tech companies as well. So we've kind of got this neat combination of tech and sports coming together for the team. And what we just wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing. We're doing a bridge round right now. So we've raised a pre-seed previously, which has allowed us to get to this point. And as COVID allows youth sports to really open up here, we're looking at a bridge round that will help us get into the US. The US is actually more than 10 times, about 15 times the size of Canada for youth sports. And so we want to get into the US market faster and enhance our analytics capabilities and develop into some other sports. So as I mentioned, we've got some good and interesting technology around assessment algorithms and matching algorithms for talent. We have a very strong team, both in the tech and the sports side. We're solving a problem that, at least in the sports world, is a pretty big problem and hasn't been cracked yet. And we've been really pleasantly surprised by the traction that we're getting early on. So we see lots of good opportunity in the future. So having said that, John, maybe I will just hand it over for some questions.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for the pitch, Steve. And yeah, really interesting and super relevant product. I think it's something that's on everyone's minds right now. But the first question from me is, you touched on this in the start with your slides, but the youth sports market is currently valued at $25 billion, I think you said, set to grow to something like $77.5 billion in the next 5 years. What's fueling the growth? You mentioned tech, but are there other sort of, I don't know, cultural, political factors that are really making this boom and grow so quickly?
Yeah, and I touched on this as you know, people may see this as a bit of a trivial thing to solve, but the reality is sports has been a little bit late to the party as far as its adoption of technology. And really, we're starting to see it at the professional level, but certainly, you know, it doesn't permeate throughout the sport, and particularly down to the youth level. So I think what we're seeing is this growth throughout with the tech, but also this real move to increase team sports and participation with travel teams. That the whole market is kind of maturing and evolving that way.
Is it across the board? You're seeing this with all sports, or is there a particular one that's kind of leading the way and the others are following suit?
Yeah, it's a combination of a few of the big sports, certainly, and some are a little further along. I referenced Moneyball at the beginning. So baseball has been big into analytics and that kind of thing for many years, but some of the other sports are really starting to catch up now. So when you talk about football, both American and rest of world kind of football, hockey is now getting into that. I think perhaps we should be talking to the Leafs at this point about helping with their youth development. But No, hockey and some of the other lesser known sports such as rugby, lacrosse, field hockey, that kind of thing. So good opportunities there.
And in terms of how sort of Best Athletes works, is there a lot of product development required to move into a new sport, or is it largely the principle is transferable to any sort of, let's say, competitive environment?
Yeah, so when we first started down this path, because our strength, our initial connections were certainly in the soccer world, that's what we're focused. But we had this vision that this would be a multi-sport opportunity. And so we have taken a lot of care to build this as an extensible platform. And so adding other sports is, while it's not a completely simple task, it's certainly much easier than starting over from zero.
And going to jump in with an audience question here as well, in terms of when you look at your growth strategy and you're already working with several sports. The question here is, how do you choose the next sport area that you want to go into? So what are the factors that come into it? And the question is, is that driven by player population, league interest and potential, university scholarships on offer, something else perhaps?
Yeah. So our focus is primarily on, we'll call them fluid sports. So baseball is a little more of a discrete sport as far as it's not as motion oriented. And so part of our kind of secret sauce is being able to take skills and be able to use machine learning to plot out the trajectory of an athlete and how they may develop and evolve. And so where we're concentrating is on these fluid sports, which are a little trickier. It's not just a matter of I shot this in golf and therefore that's my score. You don't really care how they got there, but it's more about the evolution of who's going to be replacing Ronaldo as the greatest goal scorer kind of thing. And so that's our focus. We also look at kind of their willingness to adopt some technology in an earlier stage.
And given that this is already a $25 billion market and it's going to triple in a very short space of time, I assume, even if there's not a direct competitor, I assume that there's other solutions out there that kind of cater broadly to what you do. So where do you slot into that landscape and what makes Best Athletes different?
Yeah. So, well, sports has been around for a while and everybody's super passionate about sports. And so the market is very fragmented right now, with lots of small niche players and lots of underfunded, I would say, companies that are trying to carve out a little piece of the action. Nobody's been able to kind of stitch things together into some kind of cohesive tool. So right now, to be able to get the solution we're offering would require multiple thousands of dollars. Our price point is somewhere around 300 for an annual subscription. So on a price, we're providing huge value. What we're seeing in the market as well is that there are a couple of very large players. So Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys has a company that's starting to acquire a lot of sport tech companies. And NBC is also doing that as well. And so we see this as a huge opportunity to get in and establish some market share by doing something that is a little bit different. As we said, it's an all-in-one solution, but we're also providing some machine learning and some analytics that we're not seeing anybody produce or provide so far.
It's a really interesting space, and I'm really excited to see how this develops. So one final question from me before I hand over to Victoria is, you touched on this in your presentation as well, but what would you say to people that are tuning in today? Why should they make an investment in Best Athletes?
Yeah, thanks, John. We're really at the cutting edge of helping individuals reach their dreams or realize their dreams. And this isn't just about who's going to be the next pro player, but really at a broad level, it's how can we develop youth and those that are playing sports in a meaningful way, so to help them, one, set goals and then provide them with the tools to meet those goals. So there are lots of growth opportunities and opportunities for individuals to really become better humans as part of their engagement with our platform as well. And yeah, I think it's now's the time we're seeing this. And The World Cup is coming to North America in 5 years. So there's just going to be a lot of hype and a lot of interest around the sports space.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for sharing the best athlete stories, Steve. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Awesome. Victoria, whenever you're ready, we're also ready for the PKA presentation as well.
The final score was 2-0, which I know is something you probably want to know.
Oh, very good news. Thank you. I see Matt cheering as well. I'm sure Steve's happy. And Rob, everyone.
Today, I would like you to consider a FrontFundr favorite, PKA SoftTouch, who are revolutionizing the 16 billion global syringe market for the first time in 170 years with a pain-free needle. Here is a picture of the CEO, Dick Crawford, with the microneedle in his hand. As you can see, it is discreet and there is no needle visible. Dick is a serial pharmaceutical engineer veteran, having worked with companies that are now part of Pfizer and Valiant Pharmaceuticals. Dick founded PKA with Dr. Modi, and Dr. Modi was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 16 years of age and vowed to develop a way to inject insulin without the pain. He is well positioned to do so as an Ontario-based doctor and serial entrepreneur. Each microneedle is pre-dosed, so it contains a set amount of the drug, which prevents misdosage. And once injected, the needle locks inside the device, so it doesn't require sharps disposal, enabling diabetics to take their insulin discreetly, accurately, and pain-free wherever they are. 27% of the population have a fear of injections. Any parents on this call will know the guilt face taking your baby for their childhood inoculations. The cause of the pain, the length of the needle is 8 millimeters or longer, and it goes into the nerves in the skin. That's what causes the pain. With the microneedle, it only goes 1.5 millimeter into the skin, so it doesn't touch the nerves, and hence there is no pain. Interestingly, the skin is the largest organ in the body, and the interstitial fluid in the skin, which you can just see in this image here, it actually enables the drug to be more rapidly dispersed than the traditional syringes. So it's pain-free and it actually is more rapid. The microneedle is fully developed and protected by global patents. The FrontFundr raise last year funded the vet trials, which are currently taking place. So the current raise is to complete human trials. With successful completion of the ongoing animal trials, we will be able to reach out to veterinary pharmaceutical companies to license the technology and start to develop revenue. The human trials will enable us to license the microneedle for human usage, including diabetes, but also for vaccinations, which is very front of mind and topical at this moment in time. We're already at 75% of our minimum raise, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for the pitch, Victoria. Could you tell us a little bit more about where the idea for PKA came from and kind of how it developed over the years or over time?
I guess I can answer that. So I'm the co-founder with Dr. Modi. And so I have another business called Crawford Building Consultants, and we build pharmaceutical plants. And I built one for a plant that Dr. Modi was vice president of. So he knows my talents. And we had a meeting. He bent my arm behind my back. I said yes. And that's how we launched the company. How do we both associate with each other? He is a medical doctor, PhD, chemical engineer. I'm a pharmaceutical engineer, civil engineer, and some other engineers. And so our crossover is our pharmaceutical experience. And he showed me a small cork size of a device in its early stages. And he said, I need to make it work. And that was my task. So I made it work. So that's where we are today. And so we're ready to embark on our clinical trials with our product.
And in terms of the business itself, you have three core focus areas. So as Victoria mentioned, there's the veterinary drug injection market, there's the human diabetes market, and the human injection drug market. Which one do you see as having the most potential going forwards, and why?
That's an easy one. The largest market in the world is the insulin market. It's a huge worldwide market, and it's rapidly growing. And Dr. Modi is a worldwide known scientist in the diabetes industry. And so he has a lot of knowledge. In our years to get to this point, we've met with several large insulin manufacturing companies. There are 3 large ones in the world, Sanofi, Adventis, Novo Nordisk, and Eli Lilly. We've met with all 3 of them, and they're just waiting for us to complete our clinical trials, and then we're away to the races. Now, these people are primarily in the human industry, and so we need to complete that work that's legislated for next summer, and that's where we're going to go with that. So.
Gonna jump in with a few audience questions here as well, and what is about kind of similar devices that exist on the market. So could you share a little bit about the difference between, say, how PKA works and something like nanopatch injection, for example?
So there is a lot of competition. In fact, we have a page in our business plan that addresses our competitors. We basically own the skin injection market. And one of the reasons we do is because we're low cost. We on a volume basis, we cost the same as a syringe and a vial together, because we have just 6 plastic parts and 2 stainless steel parts and a bubble that encapsulates the drug. Easy to make on a volume basis. So we tend to license the technology to, let's say, insulin drug companies. And why would they want to use our device? Because it's priced the same as a syringe that they put their product in now, but we have no pain. And we think that the market is going to drive that to the market. And also, it can be used anywhere in the body. If you're using a syringe, you have to inject yourself in 5 different parts of the body, and you have to do it usually discreetly. And our device, you could be injecting yourself while you're at a meeting underneath the table or at a meal, and you would nobody would know about it. Also, the fact that we inject into the skin, which is the largest organ, we inject into what's called as the interstitial fluid, and this fluid is always flowing. And so this fluid has twice the contact with the bloodstream. And so we can inject a drug in somebody's body twice as fast. So if you're diabetic and you're looking at a big meal you want to eat, you may have to wait 30 minutes for your injection with a syringe to take effect. And with our device, it's only 15 minutes, so it's quite a feature for quality. The other thing we discovered because we have such great contact with the bloodstream, is that we can inject 20% less drug to have the same effect on the body. So that's a lower cost for patients, for the medical insurance industry that has to fund this. So it has many different advantages. Another cost saving, we haven't really measured this yet, but we have talked to a number of health professionals and hospitals, is the fact that when you want to inject somebody in a hospital, you pull the drug out, the vial in your syringe, you have to show it to another nurse. Then you have to pull that drug out of the vial and you have to show the other nurse, yes, that's 20 milligrams. And then you have to go and inject somebody in the bed. And then you have to come back and you got to throw the syringe away in a sharp disposable container. So picture our device, you pull it out of a closet, you show it to a nurse, yes, because this syringe, so our device is filled in the factory. So it's already pre-measured, pre-dosed, marked on the container, and you show it to another nurse saying, this is 20 milligrams. And then you walk over to the patient, you inject the patient, patient's happy, there's no pain, and you drop it into a wastepaper basket next to the patient, and now you're off to your next task. So, you know, we visualize we'll be saving 50% labor costs in hospitals, you know, so this is a really big in the US market because the US market is driven by the insurance industry, and they're always looking to cut costs, so.
Could you talk a bit about how you see this technology used outside of insulin? So is it something that you could use for vaccinations, for example, which is, I know something a few people have asked on the question side, and I guess it's something that's quite present in people's minds at the minute as well.
Yeah, normally in our table of products that could be used with our device, and most liquid medications can be used in this device, not all. The number 2 market was vaccines, but because of COVID, it's now the number 1. Our device is actually made for the delivery of vaccines because most vaccines are small dosages, and we deliver a small dosage in our device. And it would be easy to dispense. So, you know, most of you have been inoculated already and probably in a large setting, and you know what they have to do is pull drug from a vial and then stick that in you. In this case, they would open up a box, take the drug out, saying here's 20, let's say 6 milligrams, and inoculate you, no pain, and throw it away right there, and you're done. You know, so again, it would speed that whole process up, and you know, definitely a labor saving opportunity there.
And can you talk to us a little bit more? Another question that's come in here is about the patents that you have for PKA. So what are they for, and how is that progressing?
The patents?
Yep.
Yeah, we have 23 patents around the world in the main markets. And so we started our patent process in 2007. And now 2 years ago, most of our patents last 20 years. So in 2019, we filed for what's called a continuation patent in the United States. And so what we do is capture all the technology since 2007, and we have an additional 20-year patent rights with our device. So, and that's currently being done around the world.
Fantastic. Sounds like a really exciting product, Dick, and I look forward to see how the PKA story develops as well. Thank you very much for answering our questions, and to Victoria for the pitch as well. I'm afraid that's all we have time for today, but if you'd like to find out more about these businesses, then do head on over to our website and you can view each of their individual raise pages. And as I mentioned a few times, we'll also be sending out a follow-up email with links to all those pages and a bit of additional information as well. For my part, I'd like to say a huge thank you to John, to Alfie and Rob, to Matt, to Steve, and to Victoria and Dick for taking part today, and also to all of you at home for tuning in as well. Hope you stay safe, stay healthy, and hope to see you again very soon. Thank you very much.